Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and this is Headlines and Tidbits, the podcast that dusts off forgotten, bizarre, and downright unbelievable stories from old newspapers. Each episode has two parts. First, I share a headline that caught my eye, something strange, unsettling, or just too odd to ignore, and uncover the story behind it, who it involved, what happened, and why it still matters. Then come the tidbits, those little gems that never made the history books, odd ads, curious announcements, and snippets that tell us about the world we came from. So today we are actually doing a Veterans Day special. Today is Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day, and thank you for your service to all of our veterans out there. And also yesterday was the 250th Marine Corps birthday. So I wanted to tell a story that kind of wrapped around the two of those. So settle in, because today's headline, it sounds like it belongs in a cartoon, but it's 100% true, I promise. The headline reads, "Duck Fights with Marines at Tarawa." So imagine, it is 1943, it's the middle of World War II, and while Marines were battling their way across the Pacific, one small feathered recruit found herself marching, or rather waddling, right alongside them. Her name was Sergeant Siwash, and she wasn't a soldier, she was a duck. So Siwash belonged to Francis J. Fagan. He also went by Bap, and he was a tough Chicago Marine who somehow ended up with a duck for a battle buddy. Even the Marine Corps later on made a short video called Sergeant Siwash, the Mighty Devil Duck. So yes, this little duck, she did become part of Marine legend. So the story begins in New Zealand, where Fagan was serving with the 2nd Marine Division, and he actually won a duck in a poker game, or maybe a raffle, depending on which Marine you ask, I guess. And instead of turning her in to dinner, he and his unit decided to keep her. They named her Siwash after one of the men's nicknames, and before long, she was just part of them. Siwash loved beer. The Marines swore that she could drain a bottle faster than most of them, and she just could never pass up a free drink, Fagan once joked. He said she'd waddle right into the bar when it was time to unwind and soon became the division's unofficial mascot. Oh man, I can just picture these Marines playing poker and giving this poor little duck beer. And then the duck must have got addicted, I guess. But according to the Marine Corps Times, they said that Fagan had actually won Siwash in a raffle at a New Zealand pub. But when the Marines had to ship out for combat, they decided that Sergeant Siwash, she was going with them too. And in November of 1943, the Marines landed on Batio Island in the Gilbert Islands in what became one of the fiercest battles of the Pacific War, the Battle of Tarawa. And so they were under relentless fire. The 2nd Marine Division, they fought their way ashore. And as the story goes, so did Siwash. According to wartime accounts, she charged into the fray and fought an enemy rooster. One report said the duck locked eyes with a Japanese rooster and chased him 30 feet up the beach before claiming victory. Fagan told reporters the rooster didn't have a chance. Siwash, she took a few pecks to the head but refused to retreat. And the Marines were so impressed, they promoted her to sergeant and gave her an honorary citation for bravery. Also, during that same battle, they said that she nearly lost her tail feathers on a pier, but quickly learned to dive into a foxhole. One 1944 article described her in detail. They said that she was a white-breasted, brown-backed duck from New Zealand, trained under Marine boot camp conditions. It told how during the dash inland at Tarawa, one Marine spotted a Japanese rooster, and Siwash, true to fighting form, spotted him too and attacked. Though wounded in the head, she kept fighting until the battle was won. The Marines even treated her wound and issued a medical citation. So after this, Sergeant Siwash, her story made headlines across the country, and her photo even appeared in Life magazine. Now, after Tarawa, Siwash went on to serve through 2 more major campaigns, Saipan and Tinian, earning 3 battle stars on her record. So years later, Fagan laughed when reporters asked about the famous rooster fight. He admitted the story had grown over time. Siwash hadn't actually faced Japanese fire. But he said with a grin, the Marines needed their legends. And maybe that's why it stuck, because it captured something true about wartime life. You know, the need for humor, companionship, and a little bit of joy in the middle of chaos. But after the war, Sergeant Siwash, she came home with Fagan, and If you thought her combat service was impressive, wait till you hear about her homecoming. She quickly became a celebrity. She was broadcast over radio stations, she appeared in countless newspapers, and even gave what one reporter called a press conference, quacking through her translator, Corporal Fagan, to announce that the fighting is over. And reporters, they called her the Fighting Duck, noting that she had weathered all of these different battles right alongside the Marines. And one photograph showed her sitting proudly on a counter as Corporal Fagan offered her a soda. Siwash turned her bill away unimpressed, and the caption read, "Beer or nothing." So in November 1944, Siwash, she actually helped kick off Chicago's 6th war bond drive. At exactly 1 minute past midnight, she waddled up to a booth and bought the first war bond, officially launching the campaign. The papers called her the Hero Duck of the 2nd Marine Division. She stayed in town just long enough for the ceremony before heading out again with Corporal Fagan for another round of appearances. Siwash had apparently earned 138 discharge points compared to Fagan's 90, thanks to her 6 dependents, ducklings hatched while they were overseas. The newspapers joked that she was planning to settle down somewhere quiet. And no matter where she went, whether she was doing ship tours or just visiting a city, crowds would line up to see her. A Milwaukee reporter wrote that people stood 2 and 3 deep around the block just to see her. But after her fame, Siwash retired at the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago, where she lived out her days, still partial to a cold beer, according to those who knew her. And the Marine Corps Times later reported that Siwash died in 1954 of liver disease. Perhaps not too surprising, given her drinking reputation. And she was actually preserved and displayed at the National Museum of the Marine Corps in Virginia, where visitors can still see her today. Fagan's daughter later wrote, "The duck had the rank, my father didn't. I think my father emerged a corporal." And remember, the duck was a sergeant. And it's the kind of quote that perfectly sums up this story. It's funny, tender, and full of Marine pride. So I just thought I would share a little humorous story to honor our veterans and our Marines and just thank them for their service. So now we will move on to the second portion of the episode, the tidbits. And our first tidbits comes from the Holdenville Daily News, and it is dated July 27th, 1937. And if you are watching on Spotify or YouTube, you can see this picture. The headline reads, "To be or not to be stung." And it is this man who looks like he's sitting in a chair and he is just covered in bees, and his daughter Sally is just kind of hanging out with him. And caption under the photo reads, "Julian Jobert and daughter Sally. To test his philosophy on handling bees, be kind to them and you won't get stung. Crippled Julian Jobert of Enumclaw, Washington, for 40 years a handler of bees, dumped a tray of them over his head and let them swarm in and out of his ears, over his face and body, and there wasn't a sting. Jobert's daughter Sally is as fearless of bees as is her father." I wonder if she got stung. They didn't really say anything, but I don't know. I guess maybe he proved his point. Who knows? And the last tidbit today, I don't have a actual date for this, but if I remember, I believe it's from the 19-teens, and the heading says "Wild Animals in the Home." It's just got this furniture that is made out of wild animals. There's a chair made out of a giraffe, and I don't know if it's really a giraffe. Who knows? It could be. There's like an ostrich, some kind of a beak, and a monkey holding up what I think is lamps. And then the caption says, "Other useful creatures, hospitable giraffe chair." So I can't even imagine. It reminds me of, like, if you've ever seen the movie The Mummy, where they go into these homes and there's just these crazy exotic things, but who knows if that's true or not. I just thought it was kind of interesting. But it is easy to laugh at the idea of a beer drinking duck, or furniture made out of wild animals, or a man getting swarmed by bees. But this Veterans Day, let's remember both the courage and camaraderie of our veterans, our Marines, and their little ducks who followed them into history. Because whether it's a man with a rifle or a duck with a beer, every story reminds us of what humanity looks like under pressure. And I hope you enjoyed exploring these headlines and tidbits with me, and I hope you come back next time to hear more stories from newspapers of the past. See you next time.